Erika Bachiochi sat at her desk, her eyes fixed on the computer screen, a cup of coffee held loosely in her hand. She couldn't remember how long she had been sitting there, only that the light from the screen reflected off her weary face. The apartment she lived in wasn't far from the office, simple yet comfortable enough to provide her with a personal space during those long work days. Her job at the high-tech company, as a marketing expert, was demanding, requiring both creativity and meticulous attention to detail. Erika was the head of marketing, responsible for developing strategies that would propel the company to greater heights in the market. She had always believed in her own abilities, trusting that her work would prove her worth and make life more meaningful. The company she worked for stood out in the industry, with a talented team and a CEO that everyone revered. She had spent nearly 5 years with them, rising from a low-level employee to her current position over the years. She had painstakingly crafted an emotional marketing strategy, blending technology with creativity to create impactful campaigns. The campaigns she developed not only garnered attention, but exceeded expectations, pushing the company to new heights. Erika took great pride in her work, but at times, she could feel the weight of the relentless demands slowly eroding her spirit. Today, Erika had prepared everything for an important presentation. She had spent weeks fine-tuning the marketing strategy for the upcoming product launch, ensuring every detail was meticulously calculated from market analysis to incorporating the latest cutting-edge technology. It was a strategy she believed would be the breakthrough the company needed. And now, she felt a palpable sense of nervous anticipation as she prepared to present it to the board. As the meeting began, Erika sat in her seat, her eyes still glued to the screen. The team was ready, and so was she. But there was a shift in the atmosphere. Something felt wrong. The executives were there, but their gaze no longer held the admiration it once had. Instead, there was an uncomfortable, distant air about them. She could feel it clearly, the subtle change in their demeanor. Just a glance, and she could tell something had shifted. When Erika presented her strategy, she could feel the eyes of the CEO, Mr. Frank, following her every move. She didn't know why, but as soon as she finished speaking, he stood up and began discussing the company's new strategy, completely ignoring the work she had just presented. Mr. Frank, the one person she had trusted, the person she had believed saw her value, was now the embodiment of betrayal. He not only dismissed her plan, but introduced his own future strategy, one that bore his name. With no credit given to her contributions, Erika stood still, holding her pen, unsure of what to do. Everything felt like it was falling apart. No one stood up for her. No one spoke up to acknowledge that the strategy was hers. She had spent countless hours researching and creating it, yet all she received was silence, the cold indifference of those she had once called her colleagues. It felt as though someone had yanked the rug out from under her, and she fell, unable to catch her balance. After the meeting, Erika returned to her office, shut the door, and sank into her familiar leather chair. She gazed out the window, where the late afternoon sunlight was gradually fading, and everything seemed to blur into a dull haze. She had given everything, always going above and beyond what was expected, but now, all that remained was emptiness. The company she had devoted years to had now betrayed her in the cruelest way. It wasn't just her hard work that had been stolen, but the trust she had placed in them, trust in a company, in a family, that had now shattered. She didn't know how to explain what was going on in her mind. Part of her wanted to cry, but another part couldn't see the point. Erika didn't want to be weak, didn't want to be a victim in this story, but she also couldn't sit idly by and let life continue to betray her. Enough was enough. At home, she received a text message from her mother, The message was nothing special, just an inquiry about her work and life. But for Erika, at that moment, everything felt bland. She had grown used to the lack of attention, to never receiving empathy, the feeling of being abandoned by her own family, with no one truly understanding what she was going through, had become all too familiar. She was the one who always had to carry the weight, always the most mature one in the family, yet never receiving the recognition she deserved. In the silence of her room, Erika realized something clearer than ever before. She was exhausted. The exhaustion of living in the shadows of others, the exhaustion of being misunderstood. But it was at that moment, amidst the fatigue, that she decided she wouldn't let herself sink into failure. She would rise, not out of revenge, but because of her own inherent worth. She would not allow herself to remain the one left behind, the one who had to work without a single word of thanks. Erika took a deep breath and turned back to her computer. One step was already in motion. She wouldn't back down, but she wouldn't do it the way they thought she would. She wasn't going to start a battle. She would show her worth through the results. Erika was no longer the person she had been before that fateful meeting. Everything inside her had changed, as if a protective shell had been ripped away, exposing a new side of herself stronger, more decisive. The days following her betrayal weren't filled with immediate action, but inside, a quiet fire burned. She began to ask herself questions she had never considered before. Had she really lived her life the way others wanted her to? Had she been true to herself? Or had she defined her existence through the company, through victories that lacked any real meaning? The morning after, as Erika woke up, she felt ready for change. She wasn't going to sit back and watch life unfold around her anymore. She started exploring new opportunities in marketing, areas she had never thought about before, smaller jobs, creative projects, and opportunities where she could truly take charge and develop. No more the cold company, no more distant colleagues. Erika decided to strike out on her own, to build a company. She had the skills, the knowledge, and the invaluable experience she had gained over the years. But there was one problem. How could she begin from scratch when she had lost everything? She spent the whole day researching new marketing trends, reading books, attending online discussions. Every new piece of information, every lesson she learned, made her feel like she was building part of her future. This was different from the days spent working in her old company, where everything had become so familiar and draining. Erika realized she could do this. She could carve out a new path, one that wasn't bound by the definitions or expectations of others. But nothing ever comes easy. Challenges began to appear the moment she took action. One morning, while sketching ideas for her first marketing campaign for her own project, Erika received a call from the bank. It turned out that due to the startup costs, her account had been drained. She hadn't saved much financially because, while at her old company, she never had to worry about money. But now, with a new project and only herself to rely on, Erika was facing the harsh reality of entrepreneurship. She couldn't ignore the call. Erika knew she had to learn how to manage finances more strictly. She began searching for small resources, joining startup support programs, and even sought out personal consultants. Every time she was rejected, it felt like a step backward, but those moments also drove her to push forward. The feeling of failure no longer made her cower. She knew that if she wanted to succeed, she had to pay the price with sweat and tears. She decided to test her strategy at full scale when she launched an online advertising campaign for a new product she believed would attract attention. She trusted in her creative abilities, but when the campaign launched, the results weren't as expected. The customer metrics were unviable, and the feedback from the online community wasn't as positive as she had hoped. Erika felt disappointed, But she didn't allow herself to stop. She spent extra time analyzing the data, trying to understand what had gone wrong, and improving the strategy's flow. Those sleepless nights, the countless hours in front of the computer screen, gradually made her realize that failure was just a part of the learning process. Then one evening, as she was revising her strategy, Erika's phone rang. It was a message from an old acquaintance, a friend she hadn't heard from in a long time. It was Dorian, the man she had met at a company event, someone who had always appeared to be a trustworthy friend. He messaged saying that his company was looking for a marketing expert to help develop a new campaign for a big project, and he wanted Erika to join. Dorian didn't know that Erika was in the middle of her own personal battle, a battle not only against failure, but also against the very people she had once trusted. She felt a strange sensation upon receiving that message. Part of her wanted to agree, as this was a great opportunity, but another part of her reminded her of the past. Perhaps this was another challenge, a sign that she needed to choose her own path. Erika looked back at what she had gone through, the sleepless nights, the painful moments of facing failure, but she understood that this opportunity could be the way for her to prove her true worth. Erika didn't know that her life would be dramatically reshaped when she decided to join Dorian's project in the first few weeks. She poured all her energy into the work every day. Erika worked tirelessly, studying marketing strategies, analyzing markets, and designing new plans for the campaign. She began rebuilding her reputation, forming new connections, and cultivating a stronger, more distinctive image. This was the beginning of a rebirth, a chance for her to prove that she didn't need to rely on those who had abandoned her. But nothing came easy. To make Dorian's campaign successful, Erika faced even more challenges, just when she thought she had everything under control. New problems emerged. One morning, as Erika was preparing a progress report for the campaign, she received an unexpected call. On the other end of the line was a familiar voice. It was Frank, her former CEO. His tone was soothing, almost as if he were trying to comfort her. "Erika, I understand what happened, but we need to talk about the upcoming project. I want you to come back and join a major campaign. This time, I'll protect you," Frank said. His voice strained yet confident. Erika felt a strange heaviness settle in her chest. She couldn't believe Frank would try to call her back after everything that had happened. How could she possibly return after he had stolen everything she had worked for? She didn't need to hear more, but curiosity and pain drove her to agree to meet him one last time, just to hear what he had to say. In her heart, however, Erika had already made up her mind she would never return to the old path, no matter what, when the meeting took place. Erika noticed something strange. Frank didn't show any shame for what had happened before. He smiled, spoke casually, as though nothing had changed. Erika sat in silence, listening to him talk about grand plans for the company, about opportunities she could seize if she came back, but she felt nothing but coldness. She realized that, to Frank, she was just a tool, a piece that could easily be replaced. His offer to bring her back was nothing more than an attempt to preserve his own position. He needed her, but not out of respect, only for his own benefit. "No, I won't come back," Erika said firmly. "I have my own path now." Frank seemed surprised, but he quickly regained his composure. "Well, fine, but don't forget that you'll need support. No one can succeed alone, especially in such a competitive market." Erika didn't let him shake her resolve. "I will create my own success without your help," she replied, giving him a cold smile. When she got home, Erika felt a sense of relief. She had made the right decision, but she couldn't stop thinking about Frank's words. A part of her still felt like something was off, as if he was hiding something. Not long after, the truth about Frank's dealings began to slowly unfold. One day, while Erika was working, she received an unexpected message from an old acquaintance. It was Jill, a friend she hadn't been in touch with for years. Jill mentioned that she had uncovered something important related to Frank and Dorian. According to Jill, Frank and Dorian had a secret arrangement, and part of it involved using Erika's marketing strategy without ever acknowledging her success. Not only had they exploited her, but they also aimed to claim everything she had contributed to the company. Erika could hardly believe what she was hearing. But then, the pieces began to fall into place. She remembered how Frank had betrayed her, how Dorian had remained silent when she needed support. This was no coincidence. Everything that had happened was part of a bigger plan, one that Frank and Dorian had orchestrated long before. And now, Erika realized that she wasn't just fighting a professional battle. She was fighting against the very people who had once seemed like her allies. Her resolve for revenge had now taken shape. Erika didn't want to confront them directly or create a scene, but she knew that the only way to make them pay was to prove her worth with results. She got to work on improving her marketing strategy, adjusting and changing what was needed to create an even more powerful campaign. During the sleepless nights, Erika continued to research and develop new ideas, tweaking her strategy to make a strong impact on the market. She knew not everyone would recognize her efforts fairly, but she would prove herself through numbers and results. As Erika's strategy started to take shape, Dorian and Frank gradually began to notice the shift. The numbers began showing the success they had overlooked. Erika was no longer just a silent worker. She was proving that she could create results bigger than their ideas. And although they never said it, Erika knew they were starting to worry. This was just the first step. She didn't just want to win, she wanted them to pay for what they had done. Erika sat in the dimly lit room, the only light coming from her computer screen, where numbers and graphs steadily moved. She had spent months working tirelessly, perfecting every marketing strategy with precision. Each day was a new challenge, but also a step closer to her goal. The sense of victory had never been so clear. Erika wasn't just rebuilding her career. She was creating a future she had never dared to dream of before. The company she was working for now was no longer just a place for her to earn a living. It had become her brainchild, the result of all the sleepless nights and painful hours she had spent. She no longer had to live in the shadows of others. Yet, despite her progress, nothing was ever easy, particularly when Erika began to realize that she wasn't just facing personal challenges, but was up against an entire system that had once sided with those who betrayed her. Dorian and Frank had started to notice the changes within the company. Erika's strategy, which they had dismissed, was now an invisible force, slowly spreading and drawing attention. The campaigns she had developed not only delivered incredible results, but also sparked conversations within the industry. By this point, Erika knew that everything she did, every success she achieved, would eventually force Dorian and Frank to face the consequences of their deceit. This wasn't simple revenge, it was a reckoning for stealing her opportunities. One afternoon, as Erika was reviewing some campaign data, her phone rang. This time, it was a call she couldn't ignore. It was Dorian, his voice betraying a hint of anxiety. "Erika, we need to talk," Dorian said, his voice calm but uneasy. "We need to discuss this campaign." Erika didn't respond right away. She simply listened to the extended silence on the other end of the line. There was something in Dorian's tone that made her hesitant. She was no longer the fragile girl who had been hurt, but she could still sense the tension in his words. "All right," Erika replied, her voice steady, offering no further words. They met in a quiet cafe. where Dorian didn't look like a man who had won. He couldn't hide the tension in his expression as he sat across from Erika. His eyes would glance down at the table and then back up at her, as if searching for an escape. Erika said nothing, merely listening. This was his moment to speak the truth. "I know what happened, and I can't deny that we made mistakes with you," Dorian said, his voice faltering. "But things have changed. You've succeeded, and I don't want to hurt you anymore." Erika looked at him, her expression void of anger. She had learned to see things calmly, without letting negative emotions cloud her judgment. "I don't need your apology," she responded. "I don't need you to explain. The only thing I need is an opportunity to do what I believe is right." Dorian fell silent, as though unsure of what to say next. He knew he couldn't change what had already happened, but what he didn't know was that Erika was no longer the person he thought she was. She was no longer the sweet, easily defeated girl. She didn't need his sympathy. She just needed to keep moving forward on the path she had chosen. As the meeting ended, Erika felt a shift within herself. This was the most important step she had taken. It wasn't just about proving her worth through her work. It was about truly breaking free from the shadows of those who had hurt her. She was no longer a part of their game. She had created a new game, and she would be the one to set the rules. In the days that followed, Erika threw herself into expanding her business. She not only wanted to continue doing the work she loved, but she also wanted to prove to those who had overlooked her that her success was not a fluke. She began collaborating with major partners, developing stronger and more creative strategies than ever before. Every step she took led to breakthrough results, not only in financial terms, but also in her growing reputation within the industry. Former partners of her old company began to take notice of Erika, inviting her to join major projects. No one could deny that she had achieved what they could not. Then, one day, out of the blue, Erika received an invitation to speak at a marketing creativity discussion. It was an opportunity she couldn't pass up. She would stand before a crowd, before those who had once seen her as insignificant, and share the successes she had achieved. This would be the next step in her comeback, not for revenge, but to assert that she had value and that no one could make her bow down. Erika stood in front of her expansive apartment, the simple black dress she wore only accentuating the confidence in every movement she made. Her long hair cascaded naturally, the soft, dim glow from the table lamp adding a touch of pink to her face. She looked at herself in the mirror, no longer seeing the weak girl she once was, no longer the image of someone who had been betrayed, abandoned, or forced to live in the shadow of others. She had overcome it all, not by confronting them directly, but through the results she had created. Every challenge, every hardship was now simply a part of the journey she had gone through to emerge stronger and more resilient than ever. Erika's company was no longer a small venture. She had transformed it into a recognized name within the creative marketing industry, known for its independent, innovative, and effective strategies. She had not only proven herself, but she had also forced the market to rethink how they viewed her. The campaigns Erika developed brought exceptional results, not only attracting the attention of partners, but also helping clients rediscover the true value of their products. Erika was no longer a background figure in the marketing industry. She had risen to become a leader throughout this time. Dorian and Frank had watched her from a distance, but now they had to face her success directly. They began to see the difference. Erika's company continued to grow, while theirs, after a series of poor decisions and mounting difficulties, was steadily losing stability. The feeling of being left behind was something Erika no longer experienced. Meanwhile, those who had once betrayed her were now facing the consequences of their deceit and personal ambition. Dorian, once the confident CEO, was no longer in control. He began to notice the decline reflected in the ever-worsening financial reports. His marketing strategies were no longer effective. Everything seemed to be slipping out of his grasp. Erika knew this, but she didn't concern herself with it. She was strong enough to understand that the price of their actions didn't always show up immediately. Sometimes it was a gradual decline, a steady loss until it was too late to recover. Frank, who had always portrayed himself as a protector during their years of working together, was now facing serious problems within his own company. Shareholders were growing nervous, partners were pulling out, and Frank's decisions seemed to be getting worse by the day. Erika didn't have to do anything. She simply watched them cut themselves down with the choices they had made. They hadn't just hurt her, they had hurt themselves too. Today, when Erika received an invitation to speak at a major industry conference, she saw it not just as an opportunity to reaffirm her position, but also as a way to close a chapter of her past. This conference wasn't just for top marketing experts, but for leaders of major companies. And Erika knew that this was her moment to prove, once again, that she had truly triumphed, not through confrontation, but through the results she had achieved. This would be her first time speaking in front of a large crowd, not to seek revenge, but to show that she had overcome everything, that she had risen from all the pain and failure to become a leader in her field. The event took place in an elegant venue, with meticulously arranged round tables and chandeliers shimmering above. Erika entered with a quiet confidence, not only in her appearance, but in her expertise. As she stepped onto the stage, all eyes turned to her. She could feel the attention, but she wasn't afraid. This was the moment she had prepared for. Erika began to share the marketing strategies she had developed, not just the numbers or plans she had executed, but the change she had brought to the market. When her presentation ended, the room erupted in enthusiastic applause. It wasn't just for the convincing content, but for the confidence and strength in the way she delivered it. Erika didn't need to speak about those who had betrayed her. She only needed to show that she could stand strong, that she could move forward without anyone's help. She had become the victor not because she had defeated anyone, but because she had taken control of her own life. Dorian and Frank, who should have been there, were not present at the conference. They had already realized that Erika was no longer someone they could easily dismiss or exploit. Her success spoke for itself in the days that followed. When Erika received large payments from various companies, she felt no joy over the suffering of those who had betrayed her. She understood that their reckoning wasn't something she had caused, but the result of their own mistakes. She knew that what she had done was not for revenge, but to prove one important thing: success doesn't come from crushing others. It comes from standing firm in the face of adversity, from never giving up, from never allowing anyone to define your worth. Erika had rebuilt her life, and now she had nothing more to prove. She just needed to keep moving forward on the path she had chosen, and that, to her, was the true victory